What's going on, guys? I'm a regular guy with the Regular Guy Firearms channel. Thanks for watching. Now, it's been a while since I posted another episode on this little series that I did. I encourage you to go and watch the last episode of this, mostly because I think it's cool little tidbits of information here and there and little misconceptions here and there that are made, and just knowledge that's lost, right? Or, pure ignorance leads to a lot of misnomers and things like that. But either I just, and one of the main reasons as to why this hadn't continued right after that first episode was mostly because either A, I didn't have a topic ready, or B, I just completely forgotten about it because of all the other stuff that's going on. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and cover this guy now. Okay, so first and foremost, have you ever heard in a conversation, one guy just bashing double single action guns or double action only guns or revolvers because of the double action triggers that a lot of revolvers have? Like, for instance, he'll say, I don't want to use a revolver for personal defense and all that jazz because of the double action trigger. They're harder to shoot and they're heavy and blah blah blah. And I've heard in conversations where a dude will just bash double action triggers for days, right? And then I'll be like, okay, well then what? I totally understand that. What do you carry then? And then he goes, oh, well, my Glock 19, it's awesome. Striker fired pistol and blah, blah, blah. Just singing the praises of striker fired guns. Some of you might know this. Most people, once this is explained to, are just kind of like, oh, well, oh. Or just because it's never really been explained how they work, a lot of people don't understand that striker fired pistols and double action hammer fired pistols are damn near one and the same. Why? Well, the defining characteristic of a double action pistol is that it does two things as you're pressing the trigger. It both cocks and then fires or releases the hammer, causing the pistol to fire and all that jazz, right? Well, what if I were to tell you that that was the same case with striker fired pistols? Okay? Because on the other side of the house, we have single action pistols where pressing a trigger does exactly one thing, and that's release the hammer once it's already been cocked, like 1911 pistols and whatnot. You charge a slide, the hammer gets cocked to the rear, you press the trigger, it drops the hammer, fires a pistol, and then the action cycles and cocks the hammer again, right? If the hammer is forward, you can't do any of that because there's no cocking mechanism for the hammer to fire. There's nothing to physically impact the firing pin and start the firing sequence, right? Okay, well, where do striker fired guns get placed into that? Quick explanation is that, okay, now, so I don't blast a hole into my wall. Here's the thing, right? When, let's say that you just got a Glock 19 or a 17, right? And it arrived, it's in the case and all that jazz, and it shows up like so. Okay? Trigger's dead. Can't do nothing to it. You can sit there and press it all day long, and you're not going to get anything out of it. But the second that you jam a magazine in there and then charge the slide, what it will do is that you'll see the trigger move forward. What this is that among a few other things, obviously, this is greatly simplified for the purposes of the video. But among a bunch of other things, what essentially just happened was that you half-cocked the striker. The striker is a spring-loaded firing pin, essentially. And when you charge that pistol, what it did was it basically half-cocked it. It prepared it to fire and all that jazz, because striker-fired pistols are designed to fire only once they're loaded. Just like any other pistol, obviously. But you can only press the trigger on the things once the slide's been charged. And the only time it's been charged is when you load the pistol, right? Part of the little safety thing that they have. A downside is that they don't have second strike capability, but I don't mind that really at all. But here's the thing. Okay, so you charge a slide and the striker is half cocked. Now, if you go to press the trigger on a striker-fired handgun, most that is, what happens is that you feel a bunch of this empty slack, right? That essentially is a striker half-cocked. But once you hit a certain point, you start to feel weight start to stack. Now, what is that? What that is again, greatly simplified. It's you charging that spring-loaded striker the rest of the way, okay? The weight that you feel is the linkages in the pistol, essentially, resisting the spring weight of that striker. And then after you reach a certain point, it releases said striker, and that's where you get this sound. You know, and if I had a pencil in here, eraser first, it'd shoot the pencil across the friggin' room. Right? So that's essentially what that is. Okay? Now, again, going back to what I said before, a double action pistol requires 2 actions. Well, it doesn't require. It performs 2 actions while you're pressing the trigger. Okay? The first would be to cock the hammer, in this case, the striker, and that's what you're doing once you're starting to press the trigger, is that you're cocking that striker the rest of the way, and then releasing it. It's 2 actions. Striker-fired pistols are double-action pistols, regardless to whether or not the striker is half-cocked once the action is cycled and all that jazz. So, I figured that you guys would enjoy that, personally, because I've heard this a bunch of times fairly recently, so I figured I'd address it in a video, mostly because I just thought, oh, well, that's cool for, you know, the video series that we're doing here. So, if you enjoyed the video, if you learned something, I'd like to know in the comments box below. I totally understand if this is information that you already knew, because a lot of dudes are very information savvy that watch this channel and la-di-da. But with that being said, guys, if you have any questions at all on anything that was covered in the video, go ahead and leave that in the comments box below. But with that being said, guys, remember, a regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny. Be easy.